and bringing you some market information about Bitcoin today in this video. Specifically, that there is a Bitcoin supply shock incoming. And when I say incoming, I mean not a year or two from now. There will very likely be practically no Bitcoin left for huge buyers like MicroStrategy and MetaPlanet and 21 Capital and all these, BlackRock and all these huge firms are each looking to buy a million Bitcoin each, which is just mathematically really not very possible right now, unless every single holder dumps their coins, which is not very likely when 84% of the Bitcoins that are mined are being held in cold wallets and have not moved in years, and they are not looking to sell anytime soon. They didn't sell at the recent highs, and there's no indication that they're going to just dump out as soon as it peeps above 100 grand, 120 grand, or something like that, 130 grand. No, it looks like they're going to hold on until it reaches dizzying heights from their perspective, and then it's worth selling at that point to to whoever wants to buy their coins. There's literally a massive supply shock on the way of Bitcoins because there's barely anything left on OTC desks. There's barely anything left on exchanges. You can see it in the order books. You can see it. If you look at OTC numbers that are known, you can see it even in the big orders that people are placing. That many orders that are known to be placed and aren't being filled. Right? There is a massive shortage right now happening in Bitcoin land, and is only going to get worse. And honestly, it could happen in June or July. Right? It could actually happen in June or July. Like, don't be surprised if in June or July you see headlines in the crypto sphere that say there's basically no Bitcoin left. And in terms of what's available to buy. Now at that point, will some people sell a little bit? Yeah, for sure. Some people will sell a little bit when the price goes up. Right? They're not gonna sell it on a low if they've been holding it for 5 years and it recently had all-time highs. They're not gonna suddenly sell it if it drops to 90 or 80 grand or 70 grand or lower. Which, by the way, it could, right? The VEPS is the VEPS, and it shows you where the probabilities are. And right now, there is a nice mean reversion, and we've had a couple of months of nice movement to the upside. Well, what happens after so much movement to the upside or the downside is you're typically going to have some kind of a mean reversion, and it's usually, very often going to be in the other direction. It doesn't have to be, but it very typically will be. What's this? What am I talking about? I'm talking about, to whom am I talking? I'm talking to you. What's this? You from hello, Indonesia. Welcome, Indonesia. Are you the only one here? I don't know. No, you're not the only one here, because obviously there's multiple people making comments. But yeah, maybe you are. Maybe the two of you are, or maybe the few of you that are here that I see are the only ones here, and so be it. That's fine. Now I make these videos to share information. Whoever wants to watch it and learn, great. Whoever doesn't, that's fine. There is a massive supply shock happening right now in Bitcoin. Right? It is very likely that this summer we are going to hit the stage where there is literally no Bitcoin left for people to buy. And not even kidding. Yes, some people, of course, will sell, right? Probably, but not at lows, and certainly not if they've been holding it for 5 years or more, right? Which, again, 84% of Bitcoins right now that are mined are being held in cold wallets, and a huge amount of those, I think almost all of them, but maybe not, but even if it's 2/3 of them have been in wallets that haven't moved any Bitcoins in at least 5 years, which means they weren't waiting for it to get to 100 grand, because it's been at 100 grand several times already. They had ample opportunity to sell it at 100 grand, and even a little bit higher, right? 110 grand, 111 grand. They didn't sell. They're waiting for Bitcoin to hit $250,000, $500,000, $1 million, and more. And what do you think will happen when there is still a demand by these massive firms that have more money than God, and they have already hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin, and they have literally hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars of money under management that they can reallocate to buy Bitcoin? And the government of the United States wants to buy Bitcoin. Do you think they don't have the resources to buy a bunch of Bitcoin if they want? They just need to sell off some of their oil reserves and gold reserves and cheese reserves and whatever other reserves they have to buy some Bitcoin. It'll be literally cost neutral, right? And when the price goes up, if they manage to buy some Bitcoin at relatively low prices, 100 grand, 120, 200 grand, whatever it is, if the price goes up to $500,000 or $1 million, they'll have made a huge amount of money for the treasury. And they're just going to keep holding them. At least that's what Trump has announced that he would do. He intends to buy Bitcoin, or have the government buy Bitcoin and just hold it and not sell it. What do you think is going to happen when all these huge whales and organizations and governments have all the Bitcoin? And the only available Bitcoin left possibly is in the hands of other people who have some and are just waiting for the price to go up radically. And the organizations that want more have all the money. Those organizations will pay more to get it. They will pay massively more to get it. It's the basics of supply and demand. Now you can also say, well, hang on. If like less than a couple thousand companies and organizations and governments and all these groups have all the Bitcoin, then what's it worth to anybody else? And you can arguably say it's not really worth anything to anybody else at that point. But if the richest people on earth want to buy it and want to own it all and are willing to pay millions of dollars for a single one, I think a lot of people will be happy to take that millions of dollars and just be like, yeah, whatever, I'm done with that, at least for now. I don't see any point in having something that nobody else has except the wealthiest people on earth. And great, let them have it. They already have all the money. They had all the money before Bitcoin. Now they want to own this thing too. And maybe it'll be worth more in time, but price distributes and mean reverts. And at some point, the richest people on earth and richest organization on earth will dump some of their Bitcoin because they'll want to sell it to the market at high prices. And the market at that time will buy. But they will buy as the price dumps out, because that's what will happen. What you ate in morning breakfast? What? I ate Bitcoins for breakfast. No, you can't eat Bitcoins for breakfast. But chocolate covered Satoshis. So yeah, there is a massive supply shock coming. Basic law of supply and demand, Econ 101. If you've never taken an economics course and you don't know about the law of supply and demand, Google it. It's real simple, right? If there's an asset that has a low supply and a high demand, the price will generally go up. If there's an asset that has a high supply and a low demand, the price will generally come down. If there's an asset that has a low supply and a low demand, the price will generally stay flat and low. If there's an asset that has a high demand and a high supply, the price will generally grind up slowly, drift up slowly, right, over time with inflation, etc. But when there's a low supply on a high demand asset like Bitcoin, I mean, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. Bitcoin has already won years and years ago. And I've been saying this to you since at least 2019. Bitcoin already won. And all this fighting back and forth that we saw from the government trying to regulate it and trying to do all these things to it, right? It already won. That was all capitulation. I told you that from the very first time I ever mentioned it to you. Bitcoin already won in 2019 when you saw Congress having hearings about what to do about crypto. Oh, it's a threat to the national interest. Now they're buying it. Threat to the national interest is a freaking national reserve of it. They hold hundreds of thousands of it because they stole it from Ross Ulbricht's company, Silk Road. Ross Ulbricht, by the way, who was freed by President Trump, given a pardon on the day one of President Trump's second term, and who spoke yesterday at the Bitcoin 2025 conference in Las Vegas, and who said, all these nice things about the Bitcoin community, how they helped him get through these tough times. And then he said something funny. He said, Bitcoin is about decentralization and unity. Freedom, decentralization, and unity, which is kind of funny because decentralization means not unified. Right? It's decentralized. It's not centralized like unity. But yeah, the point was the community has unity. You can't spell community without unity, right? So yes, there's decentralization. The power of decentralization is what Bitcoin has, and the unity of the community is what makes Bitcoin strong against the authorities, right? It's that the original Bitcoiners who built this thing as an escape valve from the authorities, built it so powerfully that look what we've come to. Now we come to the point where actually the centralized powers are taking over more and more of it because they do really fear what could happen if they didn't control any of it. And what I've always said, the rich people are coming to get this stuff, and there's nothing that's going to stop them. And literally nothing is stopping them. And again, when they own all of it, they already own most of, like, the vast overwhelming majority of it. But when they actually own like more than 99% of it, right, they're already more than 90%. But then when they own actually more than 99% of it, the average person is not going to care about it so much, at least until prices come down radically, at least temporarily enough to actually be redistributed among the masses. And that's probably not going to happen. The prices will come down. Some people will buy. People who are interested in Bitcoin, etc., they will continue to buy. But then you'll have the asset slowly beginning to mature. And it may take 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years for that to happen. But over time, the price will mature in the sense that the volatility will mature. So there'll be less volatility. So there'll be less drastic price action. But that's only going to happen once Bitcoin at least reaches the stratospheric heights of at least millions of dollars. And it could easily go higher than that. If it redistributed to be among people, not in the hands of only whales, then yeah, it could easily reach, billions of dollars or something crazy, right? Because everybody can have a little bit. But it's actually only in the hands of massive whales, and nobody wants to buy any from them. Price will come tumbling down seriously. But in the meantime, this massive supply shock is going to cause prices to probably skyrocket. I would not be surprised. I know a lot of people think, oh, summer, nothing ever happens. Well, maybe it won't happen this summer, but I'm telling you, if there's an actual supply shock, if there's nothing left in June and July, don't sleep on June, July, and August if you're trading this stuff. Don't sleep on those months. Like, don't just be like, no, it'll come back after Labor Day. No, right. There might be a severe, massive movement after Labor Day. There could also be severe movements during the summer. Because if there's an actual supply shock and you still have companies like Strategy and MetaPlanet and 21 Capital and the United States government and the Bitcoin, what's it called? The Bitcoin Boulevard or something like that, or the Blockchain Network or whatever it is, some group out of France, I think. The Blockchain Group, I think that's what it is. If you have all these companies still saying, and governments still saying, yeah, no, we're going to keep buying, and there isn't any left, the only way they're going to pry it out of the hands of holders is by offering them huge amounts of money. And that's not going to happen unless those prices are significantly higher than they've already been at the ATH. Like if they didn't sell them at 110, 111, they're not going to sell them at 112, 115, 120. They're going to hold on for $250,000, $500,000, $1 million easily. Why wouldn't they? They've already been holding it for 5 years. They clearly don't need the money. Think about it. Anyway, that's the long and short of it for now. And I just want to let you guys know that. So happy trading. Peace.